Hello, this is Chase Herbert sitting in for Valerie Silver, and this is part two of our interview with Dr. Cecilia Martin, PhD, on book Incarcerated, Escaping the Prison of Your Mind. And this is the Author's Corner Spotlight. Dr. Martin.
Hi, Chase. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about my book again. I'm glad we're doing this part two.
Well, fantastic. I tell you, when I read the book, I got to tell you, I read the book in two takes entirely. I mean, I actually had sat down, I had read the first half, and then something came up, that I had to go and handle, and I got a bit distracted. So I forced myself to hunker down, and I literally completely shut myself off to finish the book. And I literally did. I'm telling you, I did it in two settings, and where did you learn your writing style from? The concept of being able to bring the reader directly into the location, the room, someone's mindset, their emotion, and where does that come from? I mean, where did you learn this style of writing? I mean, how difficult is it to do?
Well, it is. Well, first of all, to answer your question, I do have a bachelor's degree in English literature from Morgan State University,
Oh,
HBCU proud. And
oh,
I've always loved to write. When I was younger, I did do some journaling just to sort of be able to emote and talk about my feelings. But I would say that style of writing, I probably learned at Morgan State University, but also it was a means and a way for me to really pour out my emotions in order to uh, kind of purge some of those feelings and the negativity, the depression, the anger, and all of the things that I was feeling. So, and I'm glad you're giving me this feedback because others have said the same thing that, once they start reading it, they can't put it down. And that's really the impact, part of the impact that I wanted, along with, of course, wanting someone to take the journey and perhaps find themselves in there some at some place or someone that they know and be able to experience the healing, the grace, the journey of it all. And I must say before we go too far in that I am so grateful to my publishing partner Trilogy and TBN TV because they have been running commercials since September and they will continue throughout the fall. And TBN is the largest Christian network in the world, and they reach approximately 2.6 billion households through 30 different networks. And if it
well,
wasn't for them, yes, go ahead.
no, I was going to say let's drill down on that for a second because them being a Christian publisher and the journey that you go through in this book. I mean, it's like how on earth were you able to literally sell the entire concept to them? Because when I read it, I mean, it's like I could hear things that should have been on the pages that weren't,
Mhm.
that I
Yeah.
knew were in these conversations and that existed in the room. Um, the picturization of like spending all day in church and then driving home, through the country roads at night, through the tall grass and the dirt roads in the truck, and it's like with the dark sky, it was like so visual, and then when you get into some of the more um you know tougher things and tougher elements
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
took place, I could literally physically see, for example, there's an episode that takes place in a trailer, and I could literally see inside the trailer.
Yeah.
I could see the color inside the trailer. I could see what things looked like in the trailer. I could see and picture the door. I could picture the area around it. I could picture the dirt road that had to be gone up to get food, and I can see the the
Not too many
toddler and.
spoilers now. Don't get too many spoilers. But
And I'm sitting there, and as I'm reading this, I mean, I studied English literature at Arizona State, and I'm sitting there and I'm reading this and I'm going, my gosh, how does this woman do this?
Well, again, it's art and science to some degree, but it's also, divine influence, if you will, because it really took a lot to write this prequel, that is before the other two books that are coming out. And it took a lot of prayer and
So this is a
crying.
3-book series?
It is a 3-book series. So this is the
Okay.
prequel to the other books that are coming out. The next one is Incarcerated, Escaping the Prison of Your Soul, because this really is a process of overcoming trauma. It's a process of forgiveness. And it doesn't end there, it ends on a cliffhanger. So that's why some folks are like, hey, wait a minute,
But hang on, I can't
Um,
let you off the hook here. What did Trilogy say to the manuscript?
but yes, that was
The
the question.
the
Well,
original first manuscript that went to
yes.
Trilogy, with them being and like I said, I'm just imagining what must have been there,
Yeah.
and the interesting thing is that the way that well, you tell me, what did they say?
Initially, that's a great question, because initially I had to rewrite it because it was more graphic than preferred. And
Meaning,
the concern, in fact, the exact words were, they were afraid that the details might trigger someone to the extent that the fear was that they would not recover, or from the triggers, or what, or things like that. So
really?
yeah, so I actually, and I appreciated that, because that's not what I want. I
More
didn't
so
want
than
someone.
language?
Well, no, it wasn't
They were
language.
more no, they were more concerned with the effects that they may trigger.
Yes,
Really?
yes, because it was very emotionally detailed, and not so much physically, but there, I was able to some extent describe the ripping that happened,
Sure.
and with some of the trauma that I incurred. And with that, though, I appreciate that comment, because what I didn't want was someone to read the book, feel emotionally triggered, and then put it down and not come back to it because it's too much. It reminds me of a movie like Precious. That's a movie I'll never watch again, because it was too much. And I remember sitting in the theater crying and boohooing. I was just like, oh God, they just left me in a low place,
Oh, Precious, you
and
mean?
I didn't want that for them. And so, yes, the movie Precious, it did it for me.
Yeah, she went. I tell you, man, Monique went to some very dark
yeah,
places to
yeah.
whoa,
And I didn't feel
whoa.
like I recovered, So, and with that, uh, I appreciated that feedback, because it allowed me to be even more creative in the writing process, to say it
Right,
without having to explicitly say it, to really take up the person deeper into this abstract psychological place where we all
right.
find ourselves from time to time. And I was so grateful that, at the end of the day, I was happy with the final product. They were happy with the final product. And like I said,
Oh,
they've
the
been
final
advertised.
product is the final product is absolutely just stunning. I
I
mean,
mean, as a
it's
writer, you
the
go
whole
back
thing
and
is
you say,
breathtaking. The whole thing is breathtaking. It really
I
is.
I
It
appreciate
literally
that.
takes your
As a
breath away.
writer, I go back and say, oh, I could have done this. I should have said that, whatever.
No,
But
no,
yeah,
mm-mm,
yeah.
mm-mm. No, well, one of the things that really I would say that captured me is throughout the growth in the confines of the book. Okay, that it is so well written and so picturesque that you can actually literally see in your mind's eye the stature, the size, the development of the children as they grow. I mean, you can literally picture in your mind gee, she probably looked like this. She was probably about this size. He was probably about this size. They were probably here, okay, they were in this grade, they were in that, and when you talk about things like, I'm not going to give away anything here, okay? People are going to
Okay.
have to just read this book, okay? But, when you talk about exchanges between the brother and the sister at varying ages throughout, you can
Yeah.
see the development.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it's
part
quite
of the
something.
goal. Yeah. Yeah.
It is literally quite something. Well, let me move along here. So I also personally found that within the story that you weren't the only one with problems. I mean, yeah, you literally suffered horrifically, but throughout this book, bodies lay strewn all over the place. I mean, I themed several lives, okay, that
Yeah.
were all case study nominees here. I mean, can you explain this?
Yeah, because first it was my story. And when I started writing, I actually started writing the second book first, The Sparrow. That's the one that I've always wanted to write and finish and create and put out. But then I thought, if someone picked up The Sparrow, they would be walking into the middle of a conversation or in the middle of a sentence. And in order for me to really write The Sparrow, I had to write Incarcerated.
You had to go here
And
first.
yeah, I had to do that first. And yes, because I realized that not only was I emotionally incarcerated, my father was physically incarcerated in prison serving a 36-year sentence. My mom, her story had to be told. She was just a teen when she had my brother and I. And then my brother, who had to step in as the male figure and father figure when he was just 13 months older than me. So
Yeah, but
it was
these aren't the head cases I'm even talking about.
okay.
Okay, that's why I said there's bodies that are strewn all over everywhere. What about the
Yeah.
grandfather? What about the
Yeah.
grandfather?
My grandfather and my great grandfather had their own stories. And a lot of this stuff is hindsight is 2020. And as a child, you don't know why people are the way that they are. But as an adult, when I started writing this, I actually, interviewed family members, and we had to have some tough conversations. And yes, my great grandfather, my grandfather, my grandmother, everybody had their own issues. And it was really a domino effect. And what we call in the spiritual realm, generational curses that would just permeated throughout, our lineage. And when I realized at some point that this can't be all to life. This has to be broken. Like, okay, I understand what happened to you, and now and things have happened to me, but this cannot be my legacy. It can't be the
Well,
end of the
well,
story.
the proof is in the pudding of who you are. I mean, 3 degrees, PhD. I mean, come on, you know. But here's an interesting take, and I'm going to throw this at you out of left field because I want to know what you think about this. Okay, but the one family member. Okay, I'm gonna give away just a smidge here. The
Oh
one
Lord.
family member who's supposed to be the professional, who's supposed to be the law enforcement, who's supposed to be the one in the family who has a sense of things and who makes sense of things and is the professional.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. I could not believe that after the most major horrific event, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
she's the one who's there, okay. I cannot believe that she does not. Oh gosh, what's the word I want to use, man? It's kind of like she doesn't demand retribution.
Mm-hmm.
She too gives a pass, which
Mm-hmm.
says that psychologically, is she a head case too?
Mm. You
How about
know,
that?
yeah, I
How,
think,
because from the sidelines, it's like, we've got somebody here who gets away with like everything, and
mhm,
everybody lets them until finally there's a day where the door finally gets shut, and you got to pay.
mhm,
Okay,
yeah.
I understand that, but you going to tell me after that particular episode there, and the
Well,
one who, the one who you would think, I was just like, I literally was sitting there reading and waiting for the hammer to drop. And
well,
it's like somebody just got in the car and just drove home.
well, some things drop in book two in a very drastic way. And the other thing
Okay.
too, you have to
Okay.
remember,
Oh,
well,
I see here.
yeah,
Okay.
and you know what
Okay.
you have to remember too is that, everyone is doing the best they can with what they have, what they're
Yes, they
working
are.
with. And indeed, all of us have experienced something that has made us the way that we are. And it's hard to see that as a child, but now as a full adult, as a mother, as a daughter, as a brother, I I get it. I get it.
Oh,
And
I
yeah.
believe you me, the way it's written, you can really understand why everybody took the positions that they took. Looking at it, hindsight and looking at it from being full grown adults, okay? But let me ask you this, for example. Okay, I'd like you to name how many categories that are applicable, to this great work. I mean, it's like, how many do you think? Just name some of them, like as far as, um, you know,
Mhm.
like early childhood development, things of that nature. I mean,
Yeah.
what type of effect do you think that this book has on, uh, on how many categories that exist within the confines of when there are families that have someone within the family who becomes incarcerated?
Well, it's definitely, so there are multiple buckets as you express.
Like what?
So one, there is this bucket of the at-risk or marginalized child, or the child with the behavior problems. That was me, but I was a traumatized child, right? And even then and now, to some extent, they don't view children with incarcerated parents as troubled youth in the regard from an educational standpoint. And what I mean by that is, in the school system, if you have an identified disability, dyslexia, ADHD, uh, any type of physical disability, and they have some that's called emotionally disturbed and things of that nature. Some of the categories may have changed, but they don't ever think about a child with an incarcerated parent, because when my father became incarcerated, it was like he died. He was in prison. He was gone and wasn't coming back. And how I processed that, on top of the trauma that I had experienced on his watch and as a result of his absenteeism, is something
How
that the school needed to know about, is what I'm
how
saying.
long of a sentence did he get?
He was sentenced to 36 years, and that was the plea bargain. Under
Good Lord.
Texas, under the Texas three strike rule, they could have given
Yeah.
him up to 99 years.
Good
And
Lord.
so
And how
he,
old were you when he went away?
oh gosh, I think when he went away for good, I was probably 11 or 12.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the
so
formative
there's
years.
that. Yeah, so there's that. And then there is the the to anyone who's a teen parent needs to read this. Anyone who is a sibling who's stepping in to play a parental role needs to read this, because while my brother doesn't talk about it a lot,
What do you
he was
mean?
given a raw deal. you know, he
What
was
do you
given a
mean?
raw
How?
deal.
How?
Well, in the sense that no child should have to stand in for a parent. And that is the expectation in the Black community when fathers are absent, that if there's a young male in the household, somehow he steps up and fills shoes that he was never designed to walk in. he should have been he should have been enjoying more of his childhood. And while he did to some extent, he spent the vast majority of it looking after me and my mom. And no one should have to do that. And so there's that
Well,
issue.
what do you mean looking after you and your mom?
Well, my mom trained us when we were younger to uh to look after each other. So my brother and I, we were latchkey kids. And not
Oh, I
only that,
see.
when I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
younger, he
Oh,
she taught him
okay.
to
Don't
pick
give it
out.
away. Don't give it away.
Okay,
Yeah, I know
okay.
what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I know what you're talking
Okay.
about in the book. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, yeah. So,
Whoa,
so there's that. So
that was
there's a
rough.
law enforcement issue also to look at when we're talking about, again, because I was suspended every year out of high school. I was drinking,
What?
I was smoking, I had guns, I was, I had
What
stuff
do you
going on,
mean
and
you
more of
had
that is in the
guns?
book.
What do you explain yourself, doctor? What do you mean you had guns?
Well, I didn't. I had people around who had guns if it was needed, but that was my warped mind. No one, no one needed to have a gun.
What?
No one needed to have a gun in high school, but I was
I'm going
keeping
to have to
bad
read this
company.
book again. You want to tell me what page number that's on?
I was keeping bad company. I don't even know if
Okay.
I included that in there, but it's true. I had people who had things, and it 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 was just a life that, one that I felt I was designed to have, that I was designed to. I didn't think I'd live past 25, if I'm being honest. And when I turned 25, I was like, oh, I'm still here. Look at this.
What do you mean you didn't think you would get past 25?
I don't know. I felt like my life was so dark that I
Really?
wouldn't live past a certain age. And 25 was the number. And I really was shocked when I was still alive at 25, because I was to some extent suicidal. I was definitely hanging around the wrong people. And it just, it was sort of a, what do you call it, self sabotaging? Or I thought it was
Yeah.
a self fulfilling prophecy to some extent, that I just would not, I don't know, be around for a long time.
Well, how do you see this book being used in, like, say, um, the educational field or child development and families? Again, of the incarcerated. I mean, it's like,
Well, I,
for example, I mean, you know, if a college and university picked this book up and read it, are there aspects of it that could be used in, like, what type fields, like philosophy,
oh gosh, yes.
psychology, what?
Yeah, a psychology, philosophy, religion, because that played a huge part. They'll read about that. And also literature, just dissecting the lives of individuals through a piece of literature. So yes, any law enforcement class, because sometimes we are miscategorizing people who are just simply traumatized and need to be healed. They need counseling, they need someone to talk to. And especially for teens and youth and girls, especially, who are acting out. They're being called fast, they're being called loose, and maybe, just maybe, something has happened to them that's causing that outward behavior, and boys also. And so I think it can be used pretty much in multiple. Definitely family development courses will be very useful. And I must say, even with biblical colleges at the collegiate level, this book has been advertised behind some of the most renowned preachers worldwide. Like
Really?
after
Like who?
after TD Jakes, after Joel Osteen, after David Jeremiah, who I love. We grew up on him. Charles Stanley, Joseph Prince in Singapore. So the book is being advertised after some of their sermons. And one sermon in particular, I heard Joel Osteen preaching about fatherhood, and it was so moving and so touching. And then they advertised my book at the end of his sermon, and I was just like, oh, so I was just done.
Wow, how fitting. How fitting.
Yeah.
Do
So,
what do you think about maybe parole boards using, or even people who are incarcerated from the reverse
yes,
side to see and be able to read the effects that what their choices which they made, how they have been cast upon their children, their spouses,
yes.
but more so it's kind of like the father's sins can be cast upon the children, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I really hope and pray that somehow I can get this book behind bars, the entire series actually, because what I discovered is that as long as you have a pulse, God has a plan. And even if you are incarcerated for a long time, there are things that you can say and do to make things better and relieve some of the guilt and the tension and just the heartache of it all for your kids, for your spouse you've left behind, for your family that now cares for you in a different way and feel guilty if they're not writing, if they're not call, if they're not accepting the call. It causes such a shift that everybody is learning how to adjust. But I hope and pray that every inmate, male and female, can read this book. So one, they can see the impact of their incarceration, but two, they can also see how they can sort of redeem as a result of the incarceration.
What do you think about like book clubs? Like, would this? Do you think if this book ever made its way to Oprah Winfrey, that this would be the type of book that she would have in her book club?
Yes, I do think Oprah would love to have my book in her book club, as well
Why?
as Reese Witherspoon. She's
Why?
so cute. Well, because it's just a good piece of literature, I think. Again, it's a prequel. It's a good read. It's a quick read in the sense that it's just under 200 pages, but at the same time, uh, folks are wanting to read literature and take it in bite-sized pieces. I mean, it's great to have my kids grew up reading 400 and 500 page books,
Right.
but now the way the world is built, we want stuff in bite-sized pieces. So I think one is just a good read, and it also sets the stage for the next 2, 3 books that are a little heftier now in pages, but at
You
least you
want to
know
know
what
what
you're
I
diving
think?
into.
You want to know what I think? I
Mm.
honestly think after having read book one, okay, that had you packed anything more into this book, I just would have probably went and wrecked my car. I'm telling you, it is literally nails on the chalkboard. It's gut wrenching, and there are things that just take place within the confines of this 154 pages that that you just sit there and you know just wondrous awe and disbelief, and then in the same day something good happens,
Yeah,
and it's like
there are
and
bright
it's like,
spots.
but
Yeah,
that's life.
yeah.
But it's like that's life. Well, we've got about like 3 minutes left. Okay, so you said that it's book one's part of a trilogy.
Hmm.
Tell everybody where they can get book one.
They can get it on Amazon or at Barnes and Noble and anywhere books are sold. Trilogy TV, your local bookstore. If it's not there, they will send it there right away because any brick and mortar store you can go in and purchase a book. And if it's not on the shelf, they'll get it on the shelf. And that's a guarantee. So anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
How
it's out there,
expensive
it's
is this
available.
book?
Huh?
How expensive is this book?
It's very affordable. It's 15.99. Because I'm hoping and praying that this will be used, that teens will just purchase the book as well. And I know many of them are because they're going through a lot and they don't know how to talk about it. They don't know who to whom they should talk to. there's a lot in there that I think teenagers too are benefiting from.
So for a $20 bill, they can walk into the bookstore and walk out and change their lives, huh?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's
Oh,
59.9. You add the taxes, yeah, it's getting close to 20, but you're absolutely right. For $20, it's yeah, I think it's worth it.
so they'll have a few dollars left over for the popcorn. Because I'll tell you what,
Maybe a
this
dollar
this one
fifty.
read.
If we can afford it in this inflation, $1.50 maybe.
Yeah, because I tell you what, it is quite a read, to say the least. It definitely is. Well,
Thank
listen,
you.
I tell you, we have really, really enjoyed our time with you today. Is there anything else that you would like to leave with the public?
No, just I'm so grateful and excited and want people to continue to send in their comments. Make sure you do a review. And yeah, thank you for being a team player.
well, well, listen. Welcome to the Author's Corner. We're definitely proud to add you. Your book is going to be taking over the number one slot here online at WWPR's Author's Corner, and also we will have this interview. It will actually be a link on there, so it'll live forever, and it'll be broadcast and it can be listened to all over the world, and we're going to play this interview several times in the next few months. But we definitely appreciate you. We definitely are very proud of you,
Thank
and
you.
we're honored that you gave us the time. And thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.